Hi, hola. How's everybody doing? I want to get on really quick. I want to talk to you about budget creation, why it's important, what should be in your budget, and how to create a budget and track your finances moving forward. We're going to talk about all of that today. First, why? Why do you need a budget? So many people are running businesses and running their nonprofits, and they're just getting donations and doing community projects, but they don't have a budget. And when you don't have a budget, you don't realize how much of your personal money you have invested into the program because you're just spending, spending, spending. And you can't actually see how much you're spending on certain things. And then how can you ask someone to help you? Somebody may come to you and say, hey, what do you need? You wouldn't even know because you don't have control over your finances. So the first step is to get a budget. And most of the time, when you are submitting your paperwork to your state agencies, when you're trying to get recognized as a tax exempt organization in your state, they ask for a program or operational budget. So a lot of people don't know the difference between the two. I'm just going to teach you how to make a budget today. But realistically, you should have multiple budgets. You should have an organizational budget. That means everything included, all your salaries, your administrative costs, your operating costs, your program fees and revenues and services and all that is in that big budget. So that is going to give you the big picture of how your organization as a whole is doing. Then you should have a program or a project budget. And the reason why I say program or project, because it depends on your organization. Your organization may do community service projects every now and then. So you're going to have a project budget. If your budget is to put ramps on veterans' houses, then you need to have a budget for picking up the items that are needed. If you're paying contractors, whatever, you're going to have a project budget. But then some organizations have programs. So they may have after school programs, they may have parenting classes. That's the program. So then you would need a budget to say how much money you're going to need for supplies, for building rental, utilities, paying your instructors, books and materials, all of that. So you are going to need two budgets. And if you have multiple projects or multiple programs, you should have a budget for each program or project. So most organizations will have multiple budgets. Like for me, with my organization, we have an operational budget, and then we have program budget. So our summer program has a budget. Our school program has a budget. I'm getting tongue-tied here. Our school program has a budget, and then our after-school programs have a budget. So each program has their own budget. It's up to you if you want it to have its own bank account and all this type of stuff. That's up to you. But we're just talking about every program should have multiple budgets. So with that being said, a lot of people have an organization and they're not tracking their finances. So you don't know if you are on the right track, if you're raising enough money, if you're in the negatives, if you're about to go under. You don't know any of that if you don't have a budget, and you don't know how much money you need to raise. So it is good for you to create a budget so that you can keep track of your finances. That is exactly what grantors are going to ask you, or any investor. They're going to ask you, what is your budget? And they want you to know how much money you have to bring in to operate your organization. You can't just say we're operating off of a wing and a prayer, because you're not going to get too far. You're going to get somewhere on a wing and a prayer, but it ain't going to be too far. So you have to know how much money you're bringing in for your organization to operate effectively and not have to cut corners and have part-time staff that's barely there, but you really need full-time staff. All of these things will become available, and you'll be able to see how your organization is doing if you have a budget. So let's get into what goes into a budget. So before I share my screen, I want to talk about what goes into a budget. You need to know where your money is coming from. So all your income, all your revenue that you're bringing in, that should be in your budget so that you can see if, hey, one month we bring in a lot of money and another month we don't. How can we get this month to look like the month before? Or if one year you were bringing in money from one source and the year before you didn't have that, what changes did you make and what changes you need to make going forward so you can continue to have that? This is why you need to know about your money. So you need to know where your money is coming from. You need to set goals. Your budget is your goals. Now, your income and expense statement is exactly what your program is doing, how much money you actually made, how much money you actually spent. That's your income expense statement that some people may ask for. But your budget is just saying, hey, this is a projection. If you're first starting out, you're just making a guesstimate of what you're doing. If you've already been operating, you're going to be looking at last year's income and expense statement, and then you're going to make some guesstimates based off of last year's projection and maybe add a little increase into it. So you're going to have to know where your money is coming from. So that's your income. And your expenses, you need to know where your money is going. What are you spending money on? That is exactly what your budget should show. How much money do I need to bring in for income and revenue? And how much money am I going to spend out to make sure that I'm not going in the negatives throughout this year? So I'm going to give you an example of what type of things should go into your income and expense statement. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we are looking at the current organizational budget. And when I said your income expense, that's the actual. Your budget does not have to look like this, but it can. You actually can take these 3 columns out and just have this one line of stuff, and that could be your budget. But depending on what your board wants to see or what your grantor or whoever's requesting your budget wants to see, you can actually put this up here where, hey, in 2020, this is what my budget was. Well, in 2020, this is what my budget was, and then this is what we actually did. And then you could do the same thing for the previous year. So this is what that means. So you will have the name of your organization at the top. You will have your fiscal year that you're creating the budget for and your revenue. So then you will be breaking down all the ways that you are trying to bring in money for your organization. And when I talk about having multiple streams of income, this is what I'm talking about. Some organizations, if they don't have a product or a service that they are charging their clients or participants, they may have government contracts or government grants, getting funding from that way to offer the services for free. That's a way to operate your business because you're operating based off of government contractors providing a service to the community. So that could be a way of generating income. Then you could have foundation grants, corporation grants, religious institution funding. And here's some money from corporate giving, such as United Way and the combined federal campaign, which is, I believe, the military and government agencies doing the same thing as the United Way, where people who work for a corporation who are part of that take a little bit of money out of their check to give to nonprofits. Then you can have individual donors, so people who are going to give on a consistent basis. Then throughout the year, I'm sure you're going to have fundraising events. And then if your organization has membership, the membership dues or fees, or any program income. So if you operate a subsidized school, or if you operate some type of program that you charge people a nominal fee for, this is what you'll have here. So these are all the ways that you could bring in revenue for your organization. I keep telling you that nonprofits do not just operate off of donations and fundraisers. Look at all these other means of income that the organization is bringing in. If you don't have multiple lines like this in your organization, you and your board should sit down, strategically think about how you can get money on all these different levels. So once you write those things down, and like I said, if you don't have it, guesstimate. Make this a way that you're opening up your mind and say, hey, I don't have any government grants or contracts. How can I get that this year? And then you put a fee. Maybe you may put $1,000 or whatever to start out because you haven't done it before. If you have relationships with foundations and they have given you grant stuff in the past, say last year they gave you $5,000, put $7,000 this year in hopes that you ask for more and they give you more. This is just a guesstimate. Budget is just a guesstimate of what you think you're going to project, and that's what you're working towards. It's your goals that you're working towards. When you are doing actuals or your income expense statement, that's exactly what you did, exactly how much money you got in government contracting, exactly how much money you got from the foundations. So make sure you know that your budget is just an estimate of what you think. So don't beat yourself up if you don't have something on this line. If you want to work towards it, put a number there. If you don't, put 0. Don't beat yourself up. So then when you have in-kind contributions, such as, say, if someone likes to go couponing and they gave you over $200 worth of cleaning supplies, you would put $200 right here, because you have $200 in in-kind support that you would have spent out of your program budget, but somebody donated that to you. So you have an in-kind total of $200. So this is what this line, this total of in-kind revenue, it's anything that someone donates that has a value. So they donate brand new computers that are valued at $300. That's in kind, because it's something that you would have spent out of your expenses, but you didn't have to. So it's technically in kind revenue. So remember that all of this should be tracked. If you have other ways that you generate income, put that there. But these are basically the streams of income that nonprofits have. So then when you come down to the expenses, you're looking at everything you need. Now, your list may be longer for your organization or it could be shorter, depending on the size of your organization. However, your expenses is what goes here. So when you're thinking about everything that your organization needs, that is what you put here. All the supplies that you need to operate your program. If you have to pay for a bookkeeper, if you have to pay for a consultant, if you have to pay for a new computer, or need to pay for printing and postage, whatever it is that your organization has to spend money on, you create these line items and you total it up. So here, this is just the basic stuff. If you don't have salaried staff, you might have independent contractors. So you would change this to independent contractors and total that up. If you don't have like workman's comp and employer insurance, and you just have automotive insurance or liability insurance, you would just put this line. You can either total all of your insurance up, or you could actually add, you can actually add a row. And I'm trying to do it under it. Am I messing up? I'm trying to add a row under the insurance. It's not letting me do what I need to do right about now. Let's see. Here we go. Insert below. You can insert and actually put the amount, like the different types of insurance that you have. Commercial insurance. You could put automotive insurance. Whatever it is, you could put an asterisk. I'm trying to indent it. I don't work well with Excel, y'all, so just bear with me. Let's see. There we go. So you can put commercial. You can put one that says general liability. You could add whatever, employer insurance, as far as like workman's comp and different things like that. You can add a line under there. So based off of your organization, you're putting these different line items and totals the way you want to do it. It's no specific right or wrong way. So a lot of people get, well, what do I put in there? I don't know. You put exactly what your organization needs. This is just a guide. Every organization is different. Some organizations don't have independent contractors or salary staff, so they wouldn't have any of that. And then they might not have a vehicle, so they wouldn't have automotive insurance or employer workman's comp insurance. They may just have general liability insurance. So it's based off of your organization, what you have and what you need. So if you have salaried staff, then you would put your fringe benefits, and you would put your fringe benefits, and you would put your well, this is FICA. So your fringe benefits is like your Social Security, Medicaid that you take out, and your employer taxes. All of those are what you have to calculate as well based off of your salary. And then if you have any consultants or lawyers or accountants that do financial audits or whatever you have, you would add that up and put that here as well. If you do travel for any meetings or any development or anything like that, you would add that total up for the year and put that there. And then the same with the different type of equipment that you may use. So this may look different for everybody, because you may have office equipment that you may need, like industrial size printers or whatever. But then you may also need, say if you are a sports nonprofit, you may need sports equipment. So you will put a separate line item here, and you would put your sports equipment. And you would total that up as well. So it's based off of your organization, what your organization needs, and how your organization thinks it's going to bring in revenue and how it's going to spend the money that it brings in. So your organization is not going to look the same as someone else. I recommend that you don't try to do this all in one day, especially when it's your first budget. Because sometimes, being that you're a new nonprofit executive, you can forget what you like consciously just bought. Like you were like, oh, I bought that, but you didn't even think about bought that for the nonprofit out of my own personal money, but that's something that the nonprofit needs to be paying for. So I would write these things down. And as you start spending money, as you start looking at your bank statements, at the things that you have been spending money for your nonprofit for, that's how you'll get these categories over here. Because if you have an after school program, you're going to need after school. So you're going to need here, you need regular office supplies because you're going to need paper and different things like that. But you're going to also, if you have a specific program, you're going to also need, if you have like an after school program, you're going to need program supply too. So it's all based off of what your organization needs. Think about what your organization needs. So you also want to write down things that your organization needs. Think about things that you've bought in the past that you may have to buy again if something happens. Think about things that people donated that, hey, they donated this time, but we might have to potentially buy it. Write that down. Pull out your bank statements. See what you've been spending money on and where you've been getting money in. All of that will help you. All of that will help you with developing a budget, knowing, hey, what revenue that do I have come in? What expenses do I have? All of that at one time you put together will help you develop your budget. You can't just look at this and say, I'm going to just answer these columns that I have here on this example. You really have to think about your individualized program by using your, if you're the founder, your personal money, bank statements. So what have you been spending your personal money on? What has your organization been spending the money on with its personal bank account? And then think about all the needs that you're going to have in this upcoming year and sit down with all of that to develop this budget, because you're going to need that. If someone wants to know how they can help you, then you can go to your budget and say, hey, where it says in-kind expenses, if somebody said, hey, I want to pay your internet for the year, that's an in-kind expense because they've paid that bill for you. So make sure you know what your organization needs and where your organization stands. So you can't have a revenue total of $10,000, but you have $15,000 in expenses. Now you're like, wait a minute, I'm not bringing in enough money. I need to figure out where up here I can generate more money. And that's the purpose of the budget, is so that you can see where you are financially and that you are able to put practices in place so that your organization can generate enough income. So, like I said, when you're sitting down to do your budget, make sure you have your bank statements. Make sure you're writing out a list of all the things that your organization needs or will need in the next year or has bought in the past. And then that's when you tackle your budget. Every organization is going to need a budget. Now, when I talked about this actual situation, a lot of people don't have practices in place to track their income and expenses. And that becomes a major problem when it's time to write grants, when it's time to talk to funders, when it's time to ask for money. They don't know how much money they brought in. They don't know how much money they spent. So the tool that I use is QuickBooks. And in the chat, I have the link where if you need QuickBooks, you can get QuickBooks. I like QuickBooks because you have to have some way to track your finances. QuickBooks will allow you to take pictures of your receipts. It will allow you to link your bank accounts. It will allow you to get a bookkeeper or a CPA to have access to your banking so they can help you reconcile your booking for each month. You can pay your employees direct deposit. You can pay your contractors direct deposit. You can pay your federal and state taxes. You can print out your W-2s. You can do everything in QuickBooks. You can send out invoices. You can send out donation receipts. You can send out everything in QuickBooks. And that is what you need. You need a tool so that you don't have a shoebox of receipts, an Excel sheet of your finances, and then you have your mileage tracked in some app, and then all this stuff is everywhere. So if you have QuickBooks, you can put everything in one place, and you will be a lot more organized. When you have these same categories under revenue, these same categories you can put into QuickBooks. And when you categorize your income, it'll go and add up and be totals right here for this actual line. And you don't have to do anything because it'll add up. Your accountant will know how to class all your stuff so that you'll know exactly where your income is coming from. And the same way with your expenses. You'll just put your categories in here and expenses. And if you're doing payroll, it'll automatically go to the salary section. It will all. Lawrence, is that QuickBooks? No, this is not QuickBooks. This that I'm showing you, Lawrence, this is a Excel template of just a sample budget that I have. But the good thing about QuickBooks is when you're putting your actual income and expense statement, it will help you generate a budget. It will say, hey, last year you brought in $5,000 in government contracting, $4,000 in foundations, whatever. It'll tell you what all this is. And then you'll say, hey, let me add a 5 or a 10% increase, and that will be my budget for the next year. So it makes it a lot more easier if you have something to track it. Now, a lot of people, if you're not an accountant, you're not good with finances, please don't get QuickBooks and be overwhelmed. Get QuickBooks, but then get a bookkeeper that is specializing in QuickBooks or knows QuickBooks to help you, because you always want to have control of your finances. However, it's things that you need to do. So if you link your bank account to QuickBooks and you put in all your employees' information based off of, if you have any staff, you put their, social security number, addresses, all that basic information in there. What the bookkeeper or the accountant will do is have an extra set of eyes to make sure that you are organizing everything in the right place, and that your bank statement and what you have in QuickBooks match. And that's what you call reconciliation. So what I personally do, I'm not saying that I'm an accountant, but I like to know what's going on financially in my organization. But I also have someone who knows exactly what needs to be done, knows the laws, that overlooks what I'm doing. So I handle putting all the receipts in, sending all the invoices out, doing all of that. And what my accountant does is reconciles, make sure what my bank statement says matches what I have in QuickBooks so that they can be reconciled. That means that your books are correct, that they're reconciled, they match. And then at the end of the year, when you get ready to do your 990 filing, or you get ready to submit your reporting to the Department of Agriculture and all those places that you have filed as a nonprofit for tax exemption, when they ask for your 990 and your income and expense statement, you'll have correct documentation. And they ask for a budget. As a nonprofit that's just starting out, they ask for a budget. So make sure you're thinking of different ways to bring in revenue and making sure that whatever your expenses are for your organization, they are less than your total revenue. That's the goal. Making sure you know exactly what you need. And I always tell my clients, start with your expenses first, because that will give you the motivation to get all of this done. If you have salaries and you want to pay yourself part-time, or if you know you need insurance for both your employees and your company, if you know that you need to pay an accountant, if you know you need specific supplies, write all of these expenses out. And remember, this is an annual budget. So whatever you're doing on a monthly basis, just multiply that times 12 and put that number here. And once you have your total, say if your total is $15,000 in expenses, you know that your revenue has to be more than that. So you will know how much money you need to raise at these fundraisers. You'll know how many people need to donate each year for you to reach your goal. You will know how much money you would need to get from grants and government contracts. Yes, nonprofits do get contracts. People think that government contracts are just for for-profits. No, nonprofits get government contracts too. And you can do that. And then right here where it says membership dues or program income, you need to figure out a way that you're generating some type of income aside from foundations, from grants and contracts. Because what if all of this stuff that other people are giving you goes away? You need to make sure that your organization is bringing in some type of income on your own. And I cannot stress that enough, because yes, you may be excited that one year you had a grant from Walmart or wherever, but you may not get that the next year. It's been plenty of times where I applied for a grant and one year I received it, but the next year I did not. You never know, that organization could have had a surplus, or they could have changed their initiatives for who they give funding to. Anything can change. So do not solely rely on these streams. Make sure you have some type of all of these streams of income, but also make sure you have some type of income coming in on your own. And if you do not have some type of income coming in on your own on a consistent basis, you need to figure out how you're going to do it. If it's going to be membership fees, or is it going to be some type of program fees? Now, one of the things in here that is missing that I always tell my clients to have in their revenue is board dues. Your board members should be contributing some type of way to your organization. So if you don't have board dues in your bylaws for your board members, you're missing out on income. Because every year, if you're a nonprofit, every year the state corporation is going to ask for their fees. Every year, if you're a sales tax exempt in your state, they're going to ask for their fees. It's coming every single year. It's no doubt about it. So why not at least have your board members help you cover those fees that come every year? So that is another line item that should be in your revenue streams. So this just gives you an idea to look into your organization, figure out what you will need to be successful in a year's glance. If you have any questions on what should be in your organization's budget, if you are doing your budget right, all of that, you should be in the nonprofit support portal. This is what we talk about. Every week in the nonprofit support portal, I answer any questions that you may have pertaining to your nonprofit, whether it's I wrote a grant, whether it's I filled out the sales tax exemption for my state and I don't know if this is right. Can you look over it? I am there to support you in the nonprofit support portal. So if you're not a member of the nonprofit support portal and you need guidance and you need support on a consistent basis, then you should definitely sign up. It's only $20 a month. You have access to grant opportunities. You have access to all these videos and resources that I have, grant templates. If you have a proposal that you're working on and you upload the proposal, we will revise that proposal before you submit it. We are here to help you in the nonprofit support portal. So make sure that if you're not in the nonprofit support portal, you sign up by going to ksrenterprise.com. Also, if you are looking for a tool or resource to help you with tracking your funding, you saying, hey, I don't know how to keep track of what I'm spending and what I'm bringing in, I have a link down there for QuickBooks where you can sign up so that you can start tracking your income and your expenses today. So for those of you who do not know how to get to the nonprofit support portal, I'm going to put the link in the comment section. But also, don't be afraid to reach out to me. Ask questions. I'm here to help you. I want you all to be successful. I enjoy helping nonprofit leaders on a consistent basis. I'm teaching nonprofit administration at North Central, so I'm always talking about nonprofits. I'm always helping people build their nonprofits. So I'm here to help you too. So whatever you need help with, make sure you reach out to me. I hope this video helped you with creating your budget, thinking about different revenue streams that you need to bring in for your nonprofit so that you can be successful, and thinking about how much money you're spending on different things, whether you need to cut back or you need to increase your revenue so that you can afford to do certain things. I hope this opened your mind up, because your budget is your goal for the year. That's what you're working for. That helps keep you motivated on how much money you need to bring in and raise. So make sure you have a budget as your goal and you are tracking your actual through whether QuickBooks or whatever platform you use, so you'll know exactly how much money you've brought in and how much money you spent. As a nonprofit leader, it is important that you do that. So make sure that you are doing that. If you have not done it in the past, make sure you continue to do it or start doing it in the future. I hope this helped. I hope you have a happy Tuesday and you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in.